welcome to Diabetes Connections in the News. I'm Stacey Sims, and every other Friday, I bring you a short episode with the top diabetes stories and headlines happening now. Our top story this week, we've got the first and only fast-acting insulin biosimilar, FDA approved and moving to market. Kirsty, insulin aspart, which is a biosimilar to Novolog, will be available as a pre-filled pen and a multiple-dose vial. Kirsty has been available in Europe and Canada since 2022, and this same company makes Semglee, the first biosimilar for long-acting. Tandem Diabetes has issued an urgent medical device correction for some t:slim X2 automated insulin pumps. This happened earlier this month on July 22nd. We hadn't covered it, wanted to make sure it was on your radar. They're warning of pumps that may exhibit a higher rate of speaker failure. If the volume measurements land outside the expected range, the system says this is a malfunction and it stops the insulin delivery. The pump will no longer be operational. If you have a t:slim that is potentially affected by this, you should have gotten an email from Tandem. If you are concerned, call the company. As always, every story I cover has all the information and links in the episode homepage. Head over to diabetes-connections.com to learn more. The Department of Justice protecting type 1 rights in schools. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of Washington State has reached a settlement with a public school district confirming remotely monitoring students' CGMs is a reasonable accommodations that schools must provide to comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act. And if it is true for one state, it is true for all states under federal law. Even so, this is not the first time the DOJ has had to step in. We've covered this many times here in the news and on the full podcast with interviews with lawyers. If you need more information or if you're having trouble in your school district, I will link up more information. New study finds people taking GLP-1 agonists had a significantly lower cumulative risk of developing dementia compared to metformin users. Past studies show that people with type 2 are at a higher risk of developing dementia overall. Front office changes coming to Dexcom. CEO Kevin Sayer will step down and give the reins to current Chief Operating Officer Jake Leach. This is scheduled for January 1st, 2026. Leach will also join Dexcom's board of directors, where Sayer will remain executive chairman. One of our frequent guests here, Leach has worked at Dexcom for 21 years. He served as Chief Technology Officer from 2018 to 2022 and then was named the Chief Operating Officer. He was given the title of president in May. A new international study showing that many children and young adults in sub-Saharan Africa who are diagnosed with type 1 may actually have a different non-immune-based form of the condition. This form appears to develop without the immune system attacking the insulin-producing cells. This finding could significantly reshape how diabetes is diagnosed and treated there, potentially leading to more precise care and better health outcomes. When researchers compared the data to studies in the U.S., they found a smaller but significant proportion of Black participants diagnosed with type 1 had a similar form of that found in sub-Saharan Africa, again categorized by negative autoantibodies. These researchers are pushing for more work here to get more insight as to what's happening, to look at future prevention and treatment strategies for these groups. Formal recognition for the specialty of diabetology. This is the specialty focused on the full continuum of diabetes care, separate from endocrinology. The American College of Diabetology is the national professional organization representing clinicians who specialize in diabetes care. Tidepool announces cloud-to-cloud integration with Abbott's Freestyle Libre portfolio. Tidepool, among other things, is a place for healthcare providers and patients to see data from your insulin pump, CGM, and blood glucose meter all in one place. From the release, quote, "This integration allows people living with diabetes using the Freestyle Libre portfolio to connect their data to their Tidepool account seamlessly. For healthcare providers, this means more comprehensive insights and streamlined workflows, with Freestyle Libre systems data flowing continuously into the Tidepool data platform." Roche is considering following in the footsteps of some of its peers with a direct-to-consumer model to cut out PBMs. At a press conference last week, the Roche CEO said this would positively impact pricing for patients without, quote, destroying innovation. We're going to hear a lot of pricing talks from drug companies and patients groups. President Trump has inked a most favored nation executive order that was back in May, and it aims to tie U.S. drug prices to lower prices in other developed nations. SabBio will continue to move ahead with studies to delay progression of autoimmune type 1 diabetes in newly diagnosed patients. They got a substantial boost to financing, including participation from Sanofi. Earlier this year, the company announced positive top-line data from a phase 1 trial, which basically means it can move on to the next phase of clinical development. Big new study, researchers say that artificially sweetened drinks raise the risk of developing type 2 diabetes by more than a third, significantly higher than those loaded with sugar. This was a 14-year study with more than 36,000 participants. They found that drinking artificially sweetened soda increased the risk of developing type 2 by 38% compared to people who didn't consume these drinks at all. For consuming the same amount of sugary drinks, the risk was 23% higher. The researchers believe this is due to an independent metabolic effect, not obesity. They're looking at gut microbiome disruption or a change in glucose metabolism. The study did not identify which artificial sweeteners were at play here. And finally, not really a news story, but man, did I love this video. Chrissy Teigen has shared that her and John Legend's son Miles was diagnosed with type 1 last year, and she posted a video on Instagram where she started out by saying, "Let's give LeBron James type 1 diabetes," because she took the Mattel Barbie, the collaboration with Breakthrough T1D, the Barbie with diabetes. She took that Barbie and used the diabetes accessories to transform her son's LeBron James doll into LeBron James with type 1 diabetes. Teigen has 41 million followers, so this is so amazing for awareness. But what I loved about it is halfway through, she talked about how she was getting emotional about it. And I got to tell you, the same thing happened to me. Benny has had type 1 for 18 years, but when I saw the Barbie in the store, I got emotional about it as well. I will link up the video in the show notes. And that is it for In the News. If you like it, please share it. I'm Stacey Sims. I'll see you back here next week for our regular long-form interview episodes. And until then, be kind to yourself.
Diabetes Connections is a production of Stacey Sims Media. All rights reserved, all wrongs avenged.